Throughout most of the 2016 season, Paul Richardson was relegated to fourth wide receiver duty behind Baldwin, Lockett, and Kearse. Add in the receiving prowess of Jimmy Graham, and Richardson was at best an afterthought for much of the season. After Lockett was injured during Week 16, Richardson stepped up and made some truly spectacular catches. His ability to bring down the contested 50-50 balls were a highlight, as the Seahawks offense was inconsistent at best. They needed a spark to move the chains, and Richardson randomly became that for this offense. Now, for most of the season, his role was mainly running fade routes down the sideline. These were used to vertically stretch the defense, and if Wilson really liked the matchup, he could attempt the throw. That's what happened here versus the Jets in Week 4. The Seahawks are in their mirrored twin stacks alignment. This formation is used to both horizontally and vertically stretch the defense. Wilson has Jermaine Kearse and Tyler Lockett at the top of the screen, and he has Doug Baldwin and Paul Richardson at the bottom. Anytime you see this formation, Wilson is looking for a matchup and how the defense covers the pair. Before the snap, Wilson looks left and sees safety Calvin Pryor. Pryor, who was a first-round pick back in 2014, has so far been underwhelming. He is simply not good in coverage. So, to see him out here in presumably man coverage, Wilson has to like what he sees. After the snap, Doug Baldwin ran a slant route, while Richardson ran his fade. Pryor is immediately passed since he takes too many steps on his turn. At this point in the play, Wilson sees the defender trailing, and he knows that if he throws a back shoulder pass, it is almost impossible to cover. The pass is exceptional, placed on the backside of Richardson's shoulder. He turns and jumps to pull it in. Richardson made some other pretty incredible catches, especially in the playoffs. He had a few versus Detroit that were downright jaw-dropping. For example, this one in the middle of the second quarter, where he jumped over the defender and used one arm to catch the ball. Some may argue that this should have been a penalty on both players. The defender clearly interfered with the pass, not even turning towards the ball. Richardson grabbed his face mask, which he probably wouldn't have done if he wasn't being interfered in the first place. By rule, this technically should have been offsetting penalties. This would have erased the play, but if there ever was a time for an honorary catch award, this is a great example. In the same game, Richardson had another back shoulder grab, just like he showed earlier versus the Jets. In this play, he timed the leap perfectly and extended with his full catch radius. Even after these two awesome plays, he wasn't finished. In the fourth quarter, he caught this lob pass with just one arm. He showed amazing concentration to track the ball through completion. As a runner, he has good vision and he can gain yards after the catch. Versus the Patriots, he finds the gap between the linebackers and the safety. This is very hard to cover since the safety is taught to be deeper than the deepest Seahawks receiver. In this case, it's Doug Baldwin on a seam route. Also, combine that with play action, and this opened a huge hole. Honestly, this was the extent to his role for most of the season. He was tasked to vertically stretch the defense, and that was about it. Once Lockett got injured, however, his snap count drastically changed. This opportunity opened the door for him to have a bigger role in the offense. Take this play versus the 49ers. After the snap, he takes a step-and-go release and sits by the first down marker. This was a common route run by Tyler Lockett, and the entire goal is to literally sit and wait and be an outlet for the quarterback. If the defender gives him too much cushion, he can make a few grabs without actually doing anything. He still also played his deep role, just like he did here versus Atlanta. He took a hop-step release, eating the space between him and Brian Poole. Poole expects Richardson to release outside, so he steps towards the boundary and reaches out his right arm. His goal in the Falcons' cover one defense is to force Richardson outside and use the boundary like a second defender. However, Richardson steps around him and then bursts down the field using his 4.4 speed. From the end zone view, we can see that Wilson steps up into the pocket and throws a laser on the run. His pass is perfect, sitting on the inside shoulder of his receiver. Before I move on, I want you to pay close attention to Doug Baldwin. He runs a deep over, and it's a thing of beauty. There's so much quickness to his footwork, and the subtlety in his head movements create separation. Now, I want you to compare that route to the routes run by Richardson. His footwork is not crisp, and there's little subtlety to his body language. There is still so much he needs to learn, and it became painfully obvious during the playoffs. Really, the main issue I have with him is that he is a one-speed runner. He seldom varies speed, he seldom uses subtlety in his head movements, and therefore he rarely creates separation, especially versus man coverage. Watch this hitch route versus the Lions. He takes way too many steps to throttle down. He doesn't lower his hips, and he doesn't threaten the deep portion of the route. During my tracking, I really only saw a few times when he gained separation on his own, and they mainly came right off the snap. Until he learns the subtleties of route running, I can't truthfully see him being an overall threat. As a fan of fantasy football, this leaves us with an important question. Should we draft Richardson as a sleeper? My answer to this is unfortunately no. Based on how he's used in the Seahawks offense, based on how many projected snaps, let alone targets he'll receive, which is easily the most important metric in fantasy, I simply don't think he has the upside for your team. Alright, in my next video, I'm going to jump to the Raiders' newest running back in Marshawn Lynch. This was a highly suggested topic, and I want to see his fit in the Raiders' scheme. As always, if you want your topic explored, click the link to my Patreon account and let me know who you want me to break down. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Samuel R. Gold for my latest updates.